Did the win over the 49ers save Chris Grier's job with the Miami Dolphins? We will talk about that today in depth. Also, have the Miami Dolphins found a future top 3 pass rusher in the NFL with the Chop Robinson pick? We will talk about that. Plus, we'll go over PFF grades from Week 16 and so much more. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. It's going over the touchdown again.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Finn Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Merry Christmas Eve to all of you that celebrate. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate, I hope you are having a fantastic time with your... Hey, man, you celebrate Kwanzaa. I hope you're having a fantastic time with your family, whatever it is you celebrate, whether Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, nothing, whatever. I just hope you are having a fantastic time. Shout out to AJR305. Says happy holidays, Phinside fam. Thank you. Happy holidays to you too. And I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat and on X, on YouTube that reached out to me, texted me, and wished me their condolences over what happened yesterday. I was gonna be live yesterday, but I had I lost my sidekick in life, as my wife used to call her, my shadow. My cat passed away yesterday, 8 years old. And I'll tell you the story real quickly here because it actually ties into the Dolphins. Shout out to you, Swamp Donkey, Crypto, Merry Xmas. So what's crazy is about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, it was like a Friday night. It was a Friday. It wasn't the middle of the week. It was like a Friday or Saturday. And I think it was Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. And because my wife and her girlfriends had their little Christmas dinner or whatever. So she was out. So I went upstairs, and in one of our rooms, my cat was sleeping on the bed and everything was normal, whatever. Then later that night, all of a sudden she comes downstairs limping, holding her, like not putting pressure on her right paw. And I'm like, okay, did you just jump and sprain your ankle? She's meowing, bellowing, meowing, just being dramatic. And I'm like, okay, let's watch this. And if it's not good by tomorrow, I'll take her to the vet. Next day, it was better. She was walking on it. By the third day, she's totally fine. So I was like, okay, cool. Everything's good. Friday night, I'm on the phone with EM Dolphin fan. That's where the Dolphin fan community tie-in comes. I'm on the phone with EM Dolphin fan around midnight. And I come downstairs to my office. I look to my left, and I notice my cat. She's walking into the furnace room, and the furnace room is where her water and her food is. So she walks in there, and I come and I sit down in this chair I'm in right now. And I pull out the phone. I'm talking to EM Dolphin fan, and all of a sudden, she comes to my doorway and starts just that bellowing, meowing, and to the point where EM's like, "Yo, what is that? Are your kids awake right now?" And I'm like, "No, man. Like that's my cat." And so I was like, "This is weird." So, anyways, I'm on the phone with EM. She starts throwing up. Now, any of you cat owners know hairballs, food, they always throw up. So I'm like, whatever. But she throws up like 8 or 9 times in like an hour and a half. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. Right? So she stops throwing up. She stops meowing. She looks like she's a little normal. I'm like, okay, let's ride this out, see how it goes. So Saturday comes. Wake up. She's whatever. She's not meowing. She threw up once all day. I was like, okay, well, look, maybe you're probably gonna be better. Maybe it was a stomach bug. Sunday comes. She's still lethargic, but she's not meowing or anything. But she's still getting up on things. She's drinking water. I'm like, okay, well, she's drinking. She's trying to eat. You know, she must be okay, or turning the corner. Yesterday, I wake up and my wife checks on her and her breathing is not great. And so we're like, okay, let's take her. So we take her at 11 a.m. and they told us within like an hour of tests that she had congestive heart failure and that, you know, it could be pneumonia. Right? It's either congestive heart failure or it's pneumonia. That's what we're told. So we said, okay, do everything. Like if it's pneumonia, treat it like it's pneumonia. Let's see, because if it's congestive heart failure, there's nothing you can do. You know? So we left there. We got there. We left there. Actually, we got there around 9:30. We left there around 12 o'clock. So we were there for almost 3 hours. So I'm talking to my buddy, and he's also my graphic guy, the owner of FinHub, Joey, and me and Joey were talking around 12:30 or whatever, and I tell him what the deal is. I said, listen, I'm going to try and do this show, because I was planning on doing a show yesterday. I was going to do this show yesterday around 3 o'clock. I was like, listen, I'm going to do this show around 3 o'clock because I got to transfer her at 5 o'clock to a 24/7 overnight vet clinic. And so I'm not gonna be around 5 o'clock when I normally do shows. So he's like, okay, cool, man, I'll get you all your stuff, no worries. So an hour later, not even, we get a call, basically, come say your goodbyes. Her breathing's gotten worse. We don't think she'll even make the transfer to the overnight vet clinic. Show up, she's panting, she's like, her breathing, she's making like a loud noise when she's breathing now. You know, like, it's not good. And yeah, so they had like an incubator. They're giving her oxygen, like So anyways, so basically we had to make the decision, had to put her down. It was tough, you know. She was my sidekick. 8 years I've been with her, and you know, when she was laying in the incubator, I took my hat off, I gave it to my wife, and I put my head on her stomach, and I just, you know, hugged her. And the doctor, when I was done, you know, I got up, and the doctor said, that's the first emotion she's shown all day. I said, what do you mean? She's like, she was kneading while you were hugging her. And yeah, it's just very difficult. It's been rough. So my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's like a spitting image of me, you know, my cat, I was her favorite person, and my daughter, who's a spitting image of me, was like her second favorite person. So my oldest daughter's really torn up about it. This is the first loss she's ever had to deal with. It's just been really difficult, you know, not a good way you want to ring in Christmas. And about 3 months before I got Willow, this cat, I lost my kitten previously to it. His name was Gus, and he was about 9-10 months old, and he died from FIP, which kittens can get, where basically fluids build up inside of you, and you basically like drown. It's terrible. And you know, I had to put Gus down a day before my birthday, and now I had to put my other cat down a day before Christmas Eve. So when you talk about timing, no time is good to lose a member of your family. That's what they are. And especially before a holiday. Oh, man. So that's my Christmas in a nutshell, and my holidays in a nutshell. So hopefully they get better from here. Appreciate you. Yeah, I was there every minute, you know. she passed away in my arms. They put her to sleep and they euthanized her in my arms. So, I felt her last breath. And I still remember when I picked up that cat. I still remember I went to the pet store because they were getting a whole batch of kittens in. And I walked in there and I walked over to the crates where all the kittens were. And I saw her. And I'm not lying to you. I saw her. And I put my finger in and I pet her a little bit. And you know what she did? She climbed the crate and grabbed the top of the crate and hung. And was just like staring there looking at me. And I was like, yeah, this is the one. I'm taking her home. So is what it is. Nice somber little start to this episode powered by BetUS, but here we are. It's I feel like I was robbed of half of her life. Usually cats live to about like 16, 18. I got 8 years. I got robbed, I feel like, and that's one of the toughest things about it all, but hey man, it is what it is. Thank you for understanding and giving me a space to talk about her. People who aren't cat people don't understand. Cats are just like dogs, but they're smarter. But they do a lot of the same thing. Like, I could call her. I could be on the main level in my bedroom, in the bathroom, in our bedroom, and I could call her, and she could be all the way down in the basement, 3 floors down, and she will come all the way up. Like, people don't realize cats are just like dogs with that. Like, when you earn their trust and you earn their love, they're just as loyal and they will be just as obedient. You can teach them to do things. So, it's crazy. That said, let's shift gears for a second here. I do want to say this. It's crazy, switching gears from that to is my jabroni of the week, basically. After Sunday's win, there were some people with a lot of egg on their face. And for me, the jabroni of the week has to be everyone who absolved Tyreek Hill in his drops of any blame in critical moments / big games as a Dolphin. Coming out of week 15 and heading into week 16, people, the trend we've been talking about here, we were the first to talk about this trend on Phinside The NFL. We were the first to highlight it, and we highlighted it, we really highlighted it last year, but we were talking about it even in the first year of the McDaniel era. Tyreek Hill's critical drops in big moments. Coming out of week 15 against Houston Texans, everyone wanted to absolve Tyreek of blame from that game. Even though McDaniel and Tua had said he ran the wrong route on one of the interceptions, and then on the another interception, he got his lunch money taken at the catch point, and then on top of that, he took a penalty to negate a run that would have got us down to the 3, and instead we had to settle for a field goal. Everyone wanted to negate Tyreek Hill of any blame from week 15. Well, how are you feeling after week 16? Critical third down drop. Multiple touchdown drops, including one of Tua's best throws of the McDaniel era, easily. Staying firm in the pocket and delivering that dime in the end zone that he dropped. It was a bad weekend for all of those who were out in full force trying to defend Tyreek Hill as not being part of the problem in these big games and big moments. When I've been sitting here for 3 years telling you Tua is part of the problem, but so is McDaniel, and so is Tyreek on offense. Hell, tomorrow's Christmas, right? Just go back a year ago. What happened a year ago against the Dallas Cowboys? Opening drive, Tyreek drops a wide open 80-yard touchdown. Thank God for Waddle on the next play catching a 50-yard pass. Oh my God, you didn't do it. Can someone please tell me why Harry Potter in year 1 on a broomstick has better hands than Tyreek Hill in all the 3 years he's been in a Miami Dolphins uniform? Oh my God, I had to bring this up. You know why? Because Harry Potter, technically Christmas movies, right? Right around Christmas. That's hilarious. That is absolutely fantastic. Jess says, I'm so over Tyreek. Shout out to Jess coming through and showing some love and support. I think a lot of us are. We know how dominant he can be. We know how good he can be. The problem is, man, you're making Snapchat chat posts about effort and showing up and all this kind of jazz. And then that's the effort we get. You know, I don't ever want to hear that Tua's a Tyreek merchant or reliant on Tyreek ever again. Ever. Seriously, I'm not even joking. I never want to hear that narrative. That narrative is the biggest load of trash there is. Seriously, biggest load of trash there is. Tua continues to elevate. Shout out to Jonnu. You know? So, you're not getting Chris Jones for Tyreek. I think you'd be lucky to get a second-round pick. Reason, how bad is the cap hit if you move off of him this season? I know Miami can save $20 million if they release him. But what is the cap hit? Well, I was actually looking at this with EM Dolphin fan just like a few days ago. Sorry, years. What am I talking about, huh? And the way I saw it is it has to be post June 1st. Like if you trade him post June 1st, you save $14.97 million, but you take on $12.728 million in dead cap. If you trade him post June 1st in 2026, you save $39 million, but you take on $12.7 million. Really, you need trading him is the post June 1st is the only way to save money. If you can't trade him post June 1st, then you have to he's here for another year. That's the problem. Because if you cut him pre-June 1st, you take $55 million in dead cap and negative $28.248 million in cap savings. If you cut him post-June 1st, $40 million in dead cap and then minus $12.68 million in cap savings. If you trade him pre-June 1st, $28.297 million in dead cap minus $598,000 in cap savings. But if you trade him post June 1st, $12.728 million in dead cap, and then you save $14.97 million in cap money. So the only way you can do it is if you trade him. Bro, this is what I'm telling y'all. You get me Tet McMillan all day, baby. Tet McMillan is who. If you, I'm telling you, Tet McMillan is that dude for this team. That's exactly what we need. And what's crazy is I don't think there's another, there's other receivers we could use in the draft, but I don't think there's anyone as close to being as perfect of a fit as Tet McMillan is for the Miami Dolphins and what we need and what we're looking for to complement Jalen Waddle. But he's going to be gone by the time we pick. He's gone. Ted McMillan won't make it to us. I would love him, but it's not happening. It's not happening. He won't drop to us. Unless some Laramie Tunsil video comes out. But, yeah, he ain't dropping to us. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Guys, this video, it is sponsored by BetUS. Go over to betus.com right now. All of the week 17 games are live right now, starting with Saturday. Chargers, Patriots, Denver Broncos, Cincinnati Bengals, Cardinals, and Rams on Saturday. And then don't forget, right, here's your Christmas games tomorrow, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, as well as the Ravens and the Texans. But for the Dolphins, for all you Dolphin fans wondering, we are currently on BetUS, as you can see right here, at 405. We are 6.5 point favorites. Go use betus.com right now. Use promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Get your first 3 deposits matched by 150% up to $2,000. 24/7 customer service. Some of the quickest payouts in the industry. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the channel. Road favorite by 6.5, Robert. Look at this. A win against San Fran, and here we go. Yes, I would argue Waddle is a true number one. Anyone who can put up the numbers Waddle's put up the last 2 years with Tyreek still putting up 1,800 is a number one on any other team. I'm just saying. So let's get into the main topic at hand right here. Is Chris Grier's job safe with the Dolphins after the win against the 49ers? And is every Miami Dolphin fan's nightmare coming true? I mean, you take a look at Stephen Ross and Tom Garfinkel right here. I mean, you would think we won the freaking Super Bowl. Look at this. This is right after we beat San Francisco. And then Stephen Ross gave Mike McDaniel the game ball in the post-game speech. Now, giving the head coach the game ball just because he beat his protege and we're 7-8, that's a new one for me. But listen, I've said McDaniel I thought was going to be safe the whole time. Let's stick with Chris Grier here. Chris Grier, I'm starting to get the sense that, especially if we win out, this might save Chris Grier's ass, and I don't agree with this at all. To me here, the expectation at minimum was to win a playoff game. You aren't going to meet that expectation. Realistically, if we look at it here, you aren't going to meet that expectation. So, what are we saying with our life? Why are we continuing this process? Now, we could be wanting a change for it, like I've been warning, for it to only be Brandon Shore. But at least you're showing us some effort. But I'm getting the sense Chris Grier might be safe. Which, if the excuse of, well, Tua was out is good enough, we've got major issues. Because I've said this, we've lost games since Tua's been back that we should have won. What are we talking about right now? Like, literally. We've lost games we should have won since Tua's been back. So the whole, Tua was out excuse, it's not good enough. So, Greg Cote of the Sun Sentinel, he wrote this. Sorry, Dave Hyde, I apologize. Let's get into Dave Hyde, and then we'll get into Greg Cote. David Hyde, who's accountable for Dolphins' disappointing season? Stephen Ross suggests no one. Dolphins owner celebration after 49ers win says he'll run it all back. Where's the set bar of standards? What do the Miami Dolphins stand for? Because there, in the postgame locker room Sunday, was the most significant pass of the season. We have one more ball, Steve Ross said. We do. Mike McDaniel, who had just passed out game balls to players after the 29-17 win against the 49ers. One more, Ross said, tossing the coach a game ball. Mike McDaniel. Just like that, this offseason's plans were clear. The owner wants to run it back, not just with the coach, General Manager Chris Grier, too. Ross evidently has seen enough across 3 years of McDaniel and 6 years of Grier to want more. That's all good and fine, too, considering this is Ross's decision. It's his team, his call. But again, what does this franchise stand for anymore when the owner is congratulating everyone after a 6-year build that has them at 7-8? When the 7th seed in the playoffs remains a long shot, much less the first playoff win in 25 years, when beating 6-9 San Francisco is considered such a defining moment that Ross stood on the sideline pumping his fists in the air at the end like Joe Namath's iconic fist pump after Super Bowl III. Everyone likes emotion, and those in the arena should celebrate a win. Shouldn't those running the show have a standard to properly weigh the moment? I don't want to pull out the old guy card here, but I was here when Don Shula called the entire season a disappointment after losing in an AFC championship game. I was here when Jimmy Johnson rebuilt the roster, made the playoffs, and had 2 playoff wins in 4 years and said, we didn't get where we wanted. Now, I'm here when the owner pumps his fist and awards a game ball for pulling within a game of 500 in a way that says he's happy with a management team that has had loud blunders this season. They didn't just have it by chance, too. Ross wasn't just over celebrating a win. He was making a statement he's happy with those running the team. He might hope it sweeps all questions under the rug after the season, but that's not quite as easy as pumping a fist and saying, it's all good, we're moving on. The team owner needs to talk to fans about the season and this decision. He needs to talk about how he decided Grier's management is good enough. He needs to talk about the thinking behind the backup quarterback blunder that changed the season. He needs to talk about how the oldest roster in the league is equipped. Ross needs to talk about all of this because in 2019 he explained the Dolphins trading good players, tanking a season, and undergoing a massive rebuild by trotting out the Einstein line about definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. Ross is doing the same things over and over again. Should we expect a different result? Yes, I know. This is about next season when this season isn't finished. That's a bit out of order. But even if the Dolphins sneak into the back door of the playoffs, even if all the dominoes fall their way in the next 2 weeks, even if this is the longest shot comes in, is anyone really kidding themselves? The Dolphins are 1-10 against winning teams the past 2 seasons. They were just beaten decisively on the road in the cold in Green Bay and in a dome in Houston with the realistic playoff hopes on the line. A win against the reeling 49ers didn't change the season, but you'd think it did. It's one of my favorite sports moments, memories of my life, McDaniel told his players in the locker room. That pedestrian win? The Heat's Pat Riley said he wouldn't get warm fuzzies after losing in the Eastern Conference Finals a few years back. Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers won their first playoff series in a quarter century a few years back and remade their coaching staff because their system wasn't good enough. Once upon a time, the Dolphins set the standard for South Florida sports. Now, the owner throws a fit in the air and tosses the coach a game ball for getting to 7-8 with a flickering chance of the playoffs. He's ready to run the GM 6 years of nothing into 7th year. It's Ross's team, it's his call, but he needs to tell fans why he is where he's setting the bar. 225 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. I actually agree with that. We kind of do deserve an explanation because I've said this. What's the common denominator? The common denominator over the last 24 years and not winning a playoff game. It's Chris Grier. From when he was in the scouting department to where he is now. Sure, he took full control in 2019, but he's been making calls since 2016, 2017. And that picture, the reason why I showed that picture with Ross and Garfinkel is because that picture speaks more words than just Ross giving a fist pump. Garfinkel is right there, and Garfinkel is Grier's protector and Grier's buddy. And Garfinkel is Ross's right-hand man. You know, I hate to be the one to say this. It really feels, I'm just going to be honest with you right now. It just really feels we aren't getting significant changes with this franchise until Stephen Ross steps away. The question is, if Tua gets hurt, do we make the playoffs? See, I think it's deeper than that, Jose. Yes, I think we have a winning record with Tua staying healthy and we make the playoffs. But what have we seen since Tua's been back and healthy with the loss to Arizona, the loss to Buffalo, the loss to Green Bay, and the loss to the Texans? That even when he's been back, we're still not good enough. Tua's lights out against Buffalo in week 9. Defense isn't very good. Special teams is even worse. We lose. Tua, one play within pulling us within one score of Green Bay. He's got 300 passing yards at the time. Mike McDaniel starts to run a play without Tyreek Hill and Jonnu Smith on the field. And you got guys slipping everywhere. Like Ingold. Defense finally shows up, gives us 60 minutes against Houston. Tua has his worst game since he's been back, and we lose. We always find a way to lose. And playoff teams and good playoff teams always find a way to win. Just saying. And I do think with Grier, and I've said this before, the contingency plan at quarterback, but as well as your contingency plan for Armstead, Wynn, and Austin Jackson, and trying to convince everyone that Liam Eichenberg was a sufficient enough replacement for Robert Hunt, that should get you fired alone too. But Greg Cote, what did he say? He's advocating for Grier to return. Miami tops 49ers and talk of Dolphins firing GM Grier in offseason is silly and dumb. Deck the halls with boughs of discontent. 'Tis the season to fire everybody. This is what happens in football and most sports every year. Team owners never get rid of themselves, so the heat is predictably on coaches and quarterbacks when the season fails. Scant is the difference between playoff and layoff. So if you don't make one, you're probably at risk of the other. The Miami Dolphins beat the San Francisco 49ers 29-17 Sunday in their home finale. A nice win, but one that only hoisted the Fins season record to 7-8 with 2 to play. Miami helped its slim playoff chances, but still needs a miracle. Like see a rainbow while hitting the lottery luck. 2 losses by the Broncos or Chargers in their final 2 games, plus a Colts loss may be required, and Miami winning out. Playoffs not likely, in other words. Brother, we're just focused on one game at a time right now, said Tua Tagovailoa after the game. Dolphins won with a short Tyreek Hill touchdown catch, which was Tua's 100th of his career, and 5 Jason Sanders field goals until Devon A. Chan's late 50-yard scoring run made it seem more lopsided than it really was. The 2 games left are at Cleveland and at the Jets, both on the road, both in likely cold weather. Miami must win both and pray for a handful of other results to align just right. Highly unlikely. The Fins are going down with a fight, but almost certainly still going down. So it has been comical to gauge the reaction as the Dolphins season went off the rails at 2-6 and never quite recovered. The vitriol on social media from fans has been expected, the standard. Forget that Tua Tagovailoa made the Pro Bowl last year, had a great season. Now he's a bum, right? Same with McDaniel. But some media reaction has also been silly extreme, and this is mostly focused on general manager Chris Grier, the man who drafted Tagovailoa and hired Mike McDaniel. Suddenly, he's the ripe scapegoat in a world where somebody must always be to blame. This marks the 51st consecutive season since Miami's last Super Bowl championship and the 40th straight season since the franchise's last Super Bowl appearance. Happy anniversary, by the way. Generations have grown up and old waiting for the Dolphins to be King Sport royalty again. I get the impatience. I do. Y'all know by now I grew up a Dolphins fan. Was at the very first game in 1966. Collected Royal Castle trading cards. Pennant on the bedroom wall. Yada, yada, yada. But rational thought is invited here. Most welcomed, in fact. Tagovailoa missing 4 games to a concussion probably cost Miami a playoff spot this season. Top defenders Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb missing all or most of the season. Injured didn't help. Grier's draft picks have included Waddle, Fitzpatrick, Tunsil, Howard, Gesicki, Christian Wilkins, Tagovailoa, Phillips, Javon Holland, and Devon Achane. All good picks, and Chop Robinson seems to be working out. The Tyreek Hill trade certainly worked. The McDaniel hire may be casting some doubt now by some, but just a year ago, we all loved it. Before the season, Miami's 4 consecutive winning seasons were the club's longest such streak since 2003. The consecutive playoff appearances were the first since the 2 consecutive playoff appearances were the first since 2001. The Fins being top 5 in offensive scoring and yards in the same season had last happened in 1994. The evidence is strong that Grier has been Miami's most productive roster builder in a quarter century. Dwell on this season's letdown, fine, but you cannot deny that. This season has been a disappointment, however you parse it, yes. But to say it demands a house cleaning is absurd. Tagovailoa, McDaniel, Grier, they do not have carte blanche moving forward. Each has pressure on them, but each has earned the right to return in 2025, says Greg Cote. Well, I want to know in the chat. We're gonna start a poll in the chat. Should Chris Grier, I want to know in the chat, should Chris Grier be given another year? I want you in the chat to let me know if Chris Grier should be given another year. I'll put the poll in the chat right now. Should Grier be given another year? All right. Poll is in the chat right now. A lot of you are already saying no in the chat. People are saying explicitory no. So I get it. So doesn't seem like there's an agreement that Chris Grier should be given another shot, huh? Holy. Love it. Hey, don't hold back. Don't hold back. All right, we got some more news to get into today. So let's get into it. But before we do, let's go over the PFF grades. I do have some more news that I want to get into here, but I do want to get the PFF grades out of the way and have a look at them. Haven't had a chance yet. So here are your PFF grades for week 16. Your highest graded player was Devon Achane at an 89.5. Terran Armstead, number 2, at an 85.5. Jonnu Smith at a 78.4. Tyreek Hill, 70. Somehow, tell me, this is why you don't take their grades seriously, people. Tyreek Hill finished with a higher grade than Tua Tagovailoa. I want you to figure out how that works. Tell me how that works. Tell me how that works. Tyreek Hill finishes with a higher PFF grade than Tua Tagovailoa. In what world? Your bottom 5 were Julian Hill, Agatha Ingold, River Craycraft, Eric Izakama, and Durham Smythe. Durham. When you look at pressure and depth, they had Tua 0 for 2 to the left deep. The intermediate level, they had him 4 for 9. Short level, they had him 9 for 10. And then behind the line of scrimmage, they had him 9 for 9. Tua, when he's kept clean, 21 of 29, 213 yards and a touchdown. and that's where they charged the drop. His adjusted completion percentage is 81.5. His NFL passer rating is 104.5. When he was under pressure, he was 1 of 5 for 2 yards. Average depth of target was 11.3 compared to 6.6 when he was kept clean. His NFL passer rating dropped to 39.6 under pressure. So not good under pressure was Tua. When you look at the blocking for the Miami Dolphins, all right, the pressures, they allowed 3 pressures. 2 by Wynn, 1 by Brewer. Far drop off from the week before where they allowed about, 15? Let me see. The week before they allowed, against Houston, they allowed 13, 13 the week before. So, huge. Good stuff. Defensively, Cater Coe, top graded guy, 78.4. Sealer, second highest graded, 72. Quentin Bell, third highest at a 71.6. Javon Holland, okay, number 4 at a 67.8. Emmanuel Ogbah, number 5 at a 67.6. Your worst grade guys were Walker, Riley, Benito Jones, Jordyn Brooks, and Cameron Good. And when you look at the coverage matchups, this is what it looks like from a coverage standpoint. Jordyn Brooks, he was targeted 6 times, allowed 3 receptions for 29 yards and 2 first downs, as well as Patrick Taylor had a drop. Kendall Fuller targeted 6 times, allowed 4 receptions for 52 yards, 3 first downs, and he had a pass breakup on Debo. Jalen Ramsey targeted 6 times, allowed 4 receptions for 36 yards, 3 first downs, a touchdown. Patrick Taylor had a drop. Anthony Walker targeted 5 times, allowed 5 receptions for 86 yards and 4 first downs. He's been a disaster since long left. It's like he became complacent. Cater Coe targeted 3 times, allowed 1 reception for 3 yards, and he had the pick on Juwan Jennings. Javon Holland targeted 3 times, allowed 2 receptions, 16 yards, a first down, and had a pass breakup on Patrick Taylor. Storm Duck was targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions to Juwan Jennings for 24 yards and 1 first down. Duke Riley targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 22 yards, 2 first downs, and a touchdown to Eric Saubert. Jordan Poyer targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 14 yards. Mo Ogbah, he was targeted once, allowed 1 reception for 6 yards. So, there are your PFF grades and stats for week 16. I'm not going to go over next gen stats. I got other things I want to talk about instead. So, that said, let's start getting into those things. And here is an article from Bear Jackson today, a 6-pack of notes on a Tuesday. It appears that linebacker Jordyn Brooks is going to play through a quadriceps and knee injuries that forced him to leave the 49ers game for a time before re-entering late. Speaking on a Zoom session with reporters on Tuesday, Brooks said the injury is nothing serious and he's feeling good. Brooks is 12th in the NFL in tackles with 128. Only one of the 11 NFL players ahead of him has more tackles for a loss and sacks than Brooks is 10 tackles for a loss and 3 sacks, and that's Zach Bond. Rookie outside linebacker Chop Robinson has 6 sacks in the past 8 games, and since week 9 of the season, he ranks 3rd in the NFL with 39 pressures and 1st in pass rush win rate at 23.9. He's tied with Micah Parsons for 5th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. And Pro Football Focus rates him 38th best edge player among 116 qualifiers this season. On Tuesday, Chop Robinson shared one big factor for his improvement midway through the season. Coming in here, I was beating guys with speed. In the NFL, guys are setting me different, grabbing me more, punching different. I had to learn from that. Once I picked up on that, I was able to use that against them. Robinson credits outside linebackers coach Ryan Crow for helping him make that adjustment. He also thanks several veterans, including Bradley Chubb, Calais Campbell, and Taron Armstead for mentoring him. Robinson made a huge play early in Sunday's 29-17 win against the 49ers when he deflected a Brock Purdy pass, preventing a likely touchdown. He said he didn't realize it had prevented a potential touchdown until I got to the sideline, he said. The Dolphins have several other players who are skilled at knockdowns, Campbell, Sealer, and Ogbah. Quote, having Calais and guys like that, I knew we had to put our hands up, Robinson said. Robinson's 6 sacks on the season, the 5th most ever by a Dolphins rookie, behind Jalen Phillips, who had 8.5 in 2021, Bill Stanfield and Lorenzo Brommel, who had 8 apiece, and A.J. Dewey, who had 7. Like Robinson, Marco Coleman had 6 sacks as a Dolphins rookie. His progression has been crazy, Isaiah Wynn said Tuesday. To see where he started from, where he came in, to refine his skills to this, it's scary to see how high his ceiling is. Teammates love his chop celebration after sacks. Brooks said Robinson told him weeks ago that when he had a sack, I've got one celebration up my sleeve. Robinson has 22 tackles, 7 of those for a loss, and 4 passes defended in 15 games, including 1 start. Despite playing without Chubb all season and Jalen Phillips for the most of the season, the Dolphins defense ranks 3rd in third down defense, 4th in red zone defense, 6th in rushing defense, 7th in total defense, and 11th in passing defense. On Tuesday, Brooks raved about coordinator Anthony Weaver. You get a feel for his demeanor and personality, Brooks told reporters. That's the way you have to be a coach to coach men in this league. He's got the respect of all the guys in the locker room. It makes you want to play hard for him. That's why on defense we've had success we've had. He's done a great job bringing in a great system and coaching us the right way and earning the respect of everyone, holding everybody accountable. Rookie receiver Malik Washington, who was the ACC's most productive receiver last season when he caught 110 passes for 1,426 yards at Virginia, acknowledged Tuesday that he's driven by lasting until the 6th round. Quote, a lot of guys ended up unhappy on draft day. I would have loved to be picked earlier, he said. I'm just trying to take that and use it as fuel and show others it doesn't matter where you're picked. It matters what you do when you get here. Washington's height worked against him in the draft process. He also said that blocking was one of his weaknesses in college, and he was determined to improve it. Washington, who has been excellent the past month, played the most snaps among Dolphin receivers against the 49ers. Coaches and teammates have praised Washington for his maturity. He said he hasn't always quite been as mature. Way back in high school, I was too busy dwelling on things that didn't go my way, he said, noting he sustained a torn ACL in high school. I shifted my mindset on football and everything that was going on. From there, I understand things might not always go your way, but the response you have shows your true character. What player has Brooks gained an extra appreciation for since signing with the Dolphins? Quote, Zach Sealer, Brooks said. I didn't know much about him at all. Even when I first met him, I didn't know who he was. It's no accident the success he's having. He's a guy I wasn't thinking about coming in. He's got a lot of respect for the way he plays. Quick, the way he works. So shout out to Zach Sealer, man. Defensive MVP all day. Shout out to Chop, man. All you that hated and were so quick to call this kid a bust. So quick to just call this kid a bust. And, you think he wasn't frustrated that he wasn't getting the sacks yet? He's got a, what's crazy is you think about this, right? If you think about Chop, think of how many almost sacks he had this year. Chop had a real shot to break Jalen Phillips' record this year. Think about the ones that were overturned, right, and turned into incompletions, right? A couple strip sack fumbles like that. Chop could really have been around double digits by now. How many times has he been held and that stopped him from getting it? Chop is a beast, man. Phillips finished with 8.5 in his rookie season, but Phillips wasn't getting held the way Chop's getting held. I don't remember Phillips dealing with this much of an issue when it came to holding. Maybe I'm just forgetting, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. He didn't have to deal with that anywhere nearly as bad as Chops had to deal with it. So, but man, that kid, Chop, is turning into something right now. Let me tell you that. Chop is turning into something right now. He is going to be a very good player for this team. Unbelievable. Love him. Everyone knows I'm a Chop fan. I was banging the table for him last November, and to watch him turn into something, hey, my man crushes just keep hitting, hey, every year. And hey, we've drafted them back to back between A-Chan and Chop. And we drafted right. He'll hit, don't worry. They just got to give him the snaps. Shout out to Jason Sanders. He was named AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. Right now, he's 4th in field goals made. He's 4th in 50-plus field goals made. He's made 11. He's made 33 field goals. 11 of them have been from 50-plus yards. He's 11th in field goal percentage. It's like 89.2%. So, and when he was a first-team All-Pro in 2020, his field goal percentage was like 92.3. So he's about 3% off from his All-Pro 2020 season. He's made 23 straight field goals. Has the game winner against Jacksonville. And he's made 9 field goals in just the combined last 2 wins for the Miami Dolphins. You know, you got to give this man his due. Jason Sanders, which is crazy because he's that good from a field goal standpoint, but when you got to rely on him for an extra point, that's what's crazy. You know, that's what's crazy to me. So, listen, shout out to Jason Sanders. He kicked us into the playoffs last year, right? Against Christmas Day. Against Dallas, he was huge when we needed him to be. So, I'm just hoping that Sanders can continue to be there when we need him down this stretch. Now, one thing I will say is, yeah, he's been spotty with extra points, but over the last 2 years, he has proven that, hey, I can be spotty here and there, but when you need me in the big moment, I'll show up. So I got to give him his props for that. I got to give him his props. And, shout out to Darren Rizzi. That's what a real special teams coordinator can do. That's who found this man. It wasn't Danny Crossman. Danny Crossman, I'm surprised he can find his way to work every day. I'm not even going to lie. I'm shocked. So, all right. Jonnu Smith having a career year, and remember, Atlanta had Kyle Pitts, and Benjamin Solak was asked in his ESPN article. Interesting question. Let me look at this. Let's get into this. Sorry, enough. Hey, Jason, you gotta go. Hey, I already gave you your props. This guy, he wants all the props in the world. Just Jason Sanders guy. Huh? It's all the props in the world. So here you go. Look at this. From MTG, is Arthur Smith vindicated in favoring Jonnu Smith over Kyle Pitts? Smith is electric in Miami. Kind of. The tight end position is very cool. There are a lot of unique body type skill sets that make it to that position. Jonnu Smith, who is 6'3" and 248 pounds and as smooth as a runner as you'll see in the NFL, plays the same position as Pittsburgh's Darnell Washington, who is 6'7" and 264, basically an offensive tackle. In the case of Smith and Pitts, you couldn't really have two more opposite skill sets. Arthur Smith, then coach of the Falcons, tried last season to use them both in ways that maximize their strength, but in a heavy run and boot action offense, Jonnu Smith's game is far more preferable. He's a more viable blocker and much better at turning a shallow target into a big gain. I don't think we should use Jonnu Smith's success now as a referendum on Pitts or Arthur Smith, though. I would prefer to use it as Jonnu himself did. A moment to shout out Dolphins tight ends coach and assistant head coach John Embree. Embree had the same role with the 49ers when they brought George Kittle along, and he followed Mike McDaniel to Miami, where the tight end position has gone from a complete afterthought to a key part of the offense. I really like ex-tight ends coaches from McVay to Campbell to Stefanski as risers in the coaching field because of a hand in both run and pass games. I wonder if Embree gets any head coaching looks in a light year for offensive options. That's actually an interesting take because that's something we've never talked about, right? Like, we always talk about Weaver, we always talk about these other options, right? Like, we haven't talked about a guy like John Embree being offered a job, which to me is super, super interesting. Now, John Embree, he's been here. Remember, he's been here since 2022. He's basically been a tight end coach since 2013, right? He was a head coach at Colorado from 2011 to 2012. But you look at San Fran, Miami, Tampa, Cleveland, Washington, Kansas City, tight end coach. Right? That's his specialty. And look at the guys he's been with. In Kansas City, Tony Gonzalez. Right? You look at what he did in Washington and the Redskins 2010 roster. Right? Like, that is, they had decent production from tight end with Chris Cooley. Chris Cooley had 849 yards from that year. You look at the Cleveland Browns. Jordan Cameron had a breakout year with Embree. Right? So you look at the history of the guys that have been under Embree, and he's never been an NFL head coach. Now, he was an assistant head coach with the Niners from 2017 to 2021. He's been an assistant head coach from 2022 to now here. I would hate to lose Embree and Weaver in one offseason. That would be terrible. And yes, Embree is the coach that got to call plays in the last preseason game. Alpad, good memory. 110%. But what's crazy is that's just a thought. I never even thought about John Embree, but it makes sense. John Embree and Anthony Weaver make sense. What you're not going to see is Frank Smith is not going to get offered a role, right? Because everyone's just going to continue to credit Bevel, McDaniel, etc., etc. That's why I view him as a potential scapegoat if things go wrong. Right? If things go wrong, what tie do you have to Frank Smith? That's the one you could really scapegoat. Now, listen. We talked earlier about if Grier's job is safe and McDaniel being safe. If they're not going to make any changes with Grier and McDaniel, they better change Danny Crossman. Don't be giving Danny Crossman all this leeway because of Jason Sanders. I wouldn't say Jonnu has single-handedly saved this offense. I would say Achane has single-handedly saved this offense. He's been, when Tua was out, who was our most consistent player? Achane's been the offensive MVP for this season for me. But yeah, you're right. Jonnu has impacted wins for sure. Guys, it's Christmas Eve. I want you to put in the chat, what are you doing for Christmas Eve tonight? What Christmas movie are you watching? Are you watching Christmas Vacation, A Christmas Story, Christmas with the Cranks? What are you watching tonight? Wonderful Life. One of my favorite movies, Scrooged, but with Bill Murray. I absolutely love Scrooged. Scrooged and Christmas Vacation are my 2 favorite Christmas movies. Also, if you're going into like a family kid movie, Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I absolutely love that movie. So, what? Die Hard. Everyone's saying Die Hard. Oh, Die Hard. Oh, you guys are hilarious. Die Hard, Die Hard. Oh, man, Kevin, have a blessed night at work, my friend. Christmas with the Cranks. No, that'll be out this week. I have some stuff coming on that 3 takes you're gonna be interested in. So and I you know, it's I don't want to give too much away, but let me just say this. Y'all saw D'Amico Ryans calling out plays. Don't be you know, they weren't the only one that knew it was coming. Yeah, Jingle All the Way, Bad Santa, The Fugitive. Batman Returns is a Christmas movie. Get it, Kristen. Smash that like button. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring. And I will see y'all on the next one. Have a fantastic Christmas.